In the last couple of days, Silicon Valley Bank has been all over the news after collapsing overnight. Now, how does this affect you as a traveler, remote entrepreneur, or a nomad? And how can you avoid this kind of issues with your personal and also your business bank accounts? If you have one bank account with almost all of your money, then watch this video and be careful because you might be just asking for trouble. Now, quick disclaimer here, I'm not a tax advisor, a CPA, or a finance expert. All I want to be able to do here is share some of the experience that I've had before that have helped me personally and that could possibly, just possibly, help you as well. Unless you've been living under a rock for the past year or so, you may have noticed that some banks and financial institutions have gone down recently, like People's Bank of China, FTX with $10 billion in assets, Silicon Valley Bank with $209 billion in assets, and even Signature Bank one day after SVB. Now, it doesn't take a genius to start seeing this trend over and over again. If you take a look back at 2020, that's when the government started printing more money to be able to get through the global pandemic. Now, 2021, 2022, we started to see the inflation, and we see that also the interest rates are not really working, which means they're going higher and higher and higher. And that leads to banks over leveraging your money, the money that you work so hard for, and actually gambling with it. And then comes a time where people or businesses want to withdraw their money, which banks don't even have. So you may be thinking, how does this even affect me? Maybe I just have a couple of $1,000s, or I don't have a bank account in Silicon Valley Bank or any of these banks. Now let me tell you, while I don't have millions or billions around the world, I've had the chance to bank around North America, Asia, and Europe. And I've also had issues with the banks, from getting deposits from unknown people that I don't know, to having the bank freeze my bank account. It's pretty obvious that banks and governments can and do make mistakes, but the scariest part is they have control of your money. So my question is, why would you work so hard only to put your money into the bank account so they can gamble with it and then just wait until it's gone? You may feel like all of this does not apply to you, but I'm sure that we can learn from it as well. You know how they say smart people learn from their mistakes? Wise people learn from other people's mistakes. And talking about us particularly, like travelers, nomads, and remote entrepreneurs, I feel that we have an unfair advantage over other people. One, because we have the mindset to think about different options out there in the world, not just one country. Number two, we have the mobility and we have the freedom to go to these places and actually take advantage of these new options. And number three, now, every single time that we travel, we have the opportunity to find new and better banking options. Now, back to the solution. If the bank is not really safe, should we keep all of our money in cash? Not really. But given the premise that we still need to have some money easily and readily accessible just for day-to-day expenses, we will still probably have to use a bank account. So the point is not exactly how can I eliminate the risk, but actually how can I reduce the risk. And obviously the first one and best one of all is never give all of your money to one bank. On the other side, I think it's inevitable to say that an economic collapse will happen. The only question is, how will you prepare for it? So you could have liquid cash, you can have an emergency fund, you can have multiple accounts in different countries, you can have real estate, and you can have some treasury bonds, which are still liquid. So how do we approach all this? I think we could begin by thinking about how to find a safer bank, to know where these banks are, and also know the level of diversification that you're looking for. Different levels of diversification could be just opening a bank account next door, opening a bank account in a different state, opening a bank account in a different country, or maybe even in a different currency. So in other words, don't wait until you have millions or billions of dollars in assets just so that you can start diversifying. If there's something I've learned over the past 13 years of traveling and living around the world, it's this one thing. The world is full of uncertainty. And the only way that you can take control is by not depending on anybody.